The day my own son looked me in the eyes and said, "Dad, you're broke," something inside me died. Before I could even argue, he had already arranged a cheap nursing home and told me it was for my own good. What hurt the most wasn't losing my home. It was realizing my own child had already decided my life was over. If stories about family betrayal hit close to home, I'd appreciate you subscribing to Family Betrayal. And one more thing before we go on. The faces, photos, and scenes you see are only there to help tell the story. They're not real people from my life. I'm Richard. I'm 71 years old, and I spent 45 years building everything I had with my own hands. My wife passed away 8 years earlier, and after that, my son Jason became my only family. I trusted him more than anyone. When Jason started talking about helping me, I thought he was worried about my health. He brought papers, asked strange questions about my finances, and kept saying the house was becoming too much for me. Then one afternoon he drove me to a nursing home across town. The building looked old. The paint was peeling, and the hallways smelled like bleach and stale coffee. "I can't stay here," I whispered. "You don't have a choice anymore, Dad," he answered without even looking at me. That sentence stayed with me all night. The next morning I called my neighbor, Frank, just to see if everything was okay at my house. There was silence. Then Frank quietly asked, "Richard, why are strangers moving into your place?" My heart stopped. "What do you mean? They told me they bought the house yesterday." Bought it? I hadn't signed anything. I hadn't agreed to sell. While I sat alone in that tiny room wondering how my own son had stolen my life, I had no idea he had made one mistake that would eventually destroy everything he thought he'd won. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I pictured strangers walking through the home where my wife and I had raised Jason. Every wall held a memory. Every room carried a piece of our lives. And now someone else owned it. The next morning, I asked the nursing home receptionist if I could use the phone. My hands shook as I called my attorney, Michael. We'd worked together for nearly 20 years. "Richard," he said the moment he heard my voice, "I was wondering why Jason hadn't returned my calls." "What are you talking about?" "He came to my office asking for documents about your assets. I refused to give him anything." A chill ran through my body. I told Michael everything. The nursing home. The sale. Jason claiming I was broke. There was a long silence before he spoke again. "Richard, did you sign any papers recently?" I remembered Jason bringing me a stack of forms a few weeks earlier. He said they were hospital insurance updates. I had trusted him without reading every page. Michael's voice became firm. "Don't panic. I want copies of every document. If he tricked you into signing something, we'll find out." For the first time in days, I felt a small spark of hope. Later that afternoon, Jason came to visit. He walked into my room wearing an expensive new watch I'd never seen before. "How are you settling in?" he asked with a fake smile. I looked straight at him. "Did you sell my house?" He didn't even hesitate. "It was the smart thing to do. You couldn't afford it anymore." I never agreed. "You signed the paperwork." Then he leaned closer and quietly added, "Dad, just let it go." I realized then that he wasn't guilty. He was confident. Confident that I had nothing left. Confident that I couldn't fight back. As he walked away, he laughed with one of the staff members like nothing had happened. Here's something I still wonder. If someone you loved betrayed you for money, would you ever be able to forgive them? That evening Michael called again. "I've started digging into Jason's paperwork," he said. "And Richard, I just found something that doesn't make any sense." "What is it?" The house wasn't the only thing he tried to claim. I slowly smiled. Because Jason had spent months searching for wealth that, unknown to him, had never been kept in that house. My biggest secret was still waiting, and he was about to discover just how badly he had underestimated his own father. The next morning, Michael arrived at the nursing home carrying a thick folder. The look on his face told me everything before he even sat down. "Richard," he said quietly, "Jason didn't just trick you into signing papers. He tried to transfer every account he knew about into his name." I closed my eyes. Somehow, hearing it out loud hurt even more than I expected. Michael slid several documents across the table. "The good news is that he never found everything." I couldn't help but let out a small laugh. "You mean the properties?" He nodded. "For over 20 years, I had quietly invested in real estate. After my wife passed away, I bought 3 small rental properties in neighboring towns. The rent from those homes covered all my expenses and grew into a comfortable savings account. I never told Jason because I wanted him to build his own life instead of waiting for an inheritance. Instead, he assumed I was broke. A week later, Michael uncovered something even worse. Jason had already spent most of the money from selling my house. He had bought a luxury SUV, paid off his credit cards, and put a large down payment on a bigger home. He was spending money that might never legally belong to him. Then Michael smiled for the first time. "The buyers of your old house have contacted us." My heart raced. They had no idea anything was wrong. Once they learned how the sale happened, they're willing to cooperate. That changed everything. Soon, the court froze the money from the sale while investigators reviewed the documents Jason had used. His confidence disappeared overnight. Then my phone rang. It was Jason. "Dad, please," he said, his voice shaking. "Can't we settle this as a family?" For months, he had treated me like I was worthless. Now he suddenly remembered I was his father. "I'll see you in court," I replied before hanging up. A few days later, we stood across from each other in the courtroom. Jason wouldn't even meet my eyes. Then the judge asked one simple question that changed the entire case. "Mr. Carter, did your father knowingly authorize the sale of his home?" Jason opened his mouth, but before he could answer, Michael stood up holding a piece of evidence none of us expected. The courtroom fell completely silent.